Welcome back to another Stampede Blue Colts Cast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Matt Danely. This is, as you may or may not know, if you follow me on Twitter, this is going to be my final Colts Cast, at least, presumably. So just for a quick recap, or at least to discuss the news, I mentioned on Twitter today that I am going to be stepping away from Stampede Blue for the time being, more than likely for good. But we'll go through a little bit of that here in the upcoming moments and time. So kind of a weird start to the show, obviously. Not real sure how to start, your final show, your send-off, so to speak. So first and foremost, just wanted to say thank you to everybody for all the kind words. People who are following me, other people in the industry, friends from Stampede Blue, so on and so forth, and other places that I've ventured throughout my brief writing career. Thank you guys all. I've always appreciated the support from you guys. It's always been a blast to talk Colts, to write Colts, to do everything that we've done together and kind of talked about together, the different times, the different coaches, the different GMs, all that good stuff. It's always been a blast. But for me, the time has come for me to kind of move away from this. And as I said earlier, we'll get to kind of that in a few minutes. But first, I'm not going to leave out without talking something about the Colts this year. So kind of to break it down just a little bit, I decided to go through kind of my predictions, kind of bold, like not bold predictions, but kind of my basic predictions for the 2019 season. For the division. I really love what Chris Ballard's doing. You guys have known that. If you've heard me say anything about this Colts team, you guys have heard how much I appreciate what Chris Ballard's doing. Kind of interesting that Rex Hogan is leaving. I know we talked about that a while ago. Could it be him? Could it be somebody else? That moves on. I was a little surprised it was Hogan, I guess. I guess I just didn't really consider it that it would be. That was kind of popped on us pretty quickly, but he's going to the Jets as an assistant GM. Pretty interesting to me. I think, these guys are all ascending. All these people that Ballard's bringing together, he's bringing them together because they're smart, right? These aren't stupid people. So we have to expect in some degree for these people to move on and move away from the organization, because that's what smart people do. They go up, they move on. That's how things happen. But just in general, when you look at the Colts this year, you have to love the way they've drafted. You have to love the way that they've kind of supplemented their drafts with the necessary, I would say, and not always enough, seemingly, from Colts fans and us alike, that they don't supplement it quite enough in free agency. But things are working out. The team is on an upward trajectory. They look good. They sound good. The team definitely has the coach in Frank Reich that is going to get through to them, that's going to bring them all in on the process. And that's something that the team desperately needs to really kind of take that next step. Moving back to last year, the Colts were 10-6, didn't win the division. Texans had that one game on them in Indianapolis where the Colts kind of gave them a couple touchdowns and weren't able to finish the game. Didn't go for the tie. Frank Reich went for the win. They still made the playoffs, so you've got to give him his credit there. I questioned that decision a lot. I was at the game. I was pissed. So that was, one of the things. I didn't really think he should go for the tie. I just thought, what the hell, man? A tie is better than a loss. Then you have both these teams at 10-6-1, or a 10-5-1. They still win the division. And you still have, head-to-head matches and stuff like that. You've got away, home, division, all that good stuff that goes on. And it's kind of funny because the Colts were very close in that. Ultimately, the Texans would have won, in my presumption, because of their conference record at 9-3. So I still, this year, anything we've talked about recently, I've talked to you guys about that. I think that the Colts are in as good a place as any right now, especially amongst the division. I don't think that the Texans are good. I just don't. They've got some players, obviously. I think that their draft sucked. I think that their organization sucks, quite honestly. I mean, just the way that they go about their business, the way that they produce I mean, in their GM issues kind of filter through that. I mean, maybe it's a smart decision. Maybe it's not. I just don't think that they're anywhere near where the Colts are mentally as an organization, nor do I think that they have the talent that the Colts have throughout the roster right now. The Titans, I don't think Marcus Mariota is ever going to be a superstar in the NFL. So I don't think that Mariota is going to take this team to the next level. He's hurt every single year. He's never as good as he should be. He plays against the Colts pretty well, but he never really does anything against anybody else. So I just don't trust him. Just don't think that that's there. Deshaun Watson for the Texans, kind of the opposite way. We've seen him play out of this world, but he is also injured. You never know really what he's going to produce. I mean, he's still yet to be determined, but I think he's got a monstrous upside, whereas I don't think that Mariota does, quite honestly. So I don't trust the Titans. I think that they've got they've made some good moves. I think they've got a real defense. They have the potential to have a real offense. They've got a lot of nice pieces that they've added this year. I just still don't trust Mariota. And if he's their quarterback next year, I don't think that much of that changes. Maybe he changes, or maybe he, proves me wrong or proves a lot of people wrong, because I don't think that a lot of people have much trust in him, to be perfectly honest. The Jaguars, moving on to them, they've got Nick Foles now. Come on, people. I don't know, man. I really feel like he's lightning in a bottle when he was in Philly. I don't think that he's good. He might be a great locker room guy, like they've said, that he's just a guy who brings people together, and that could go a long way. I don't know. Maybe he is better now than he ever was in the previous years, and maybe he's actually just kind of stepped his game way up. I just personally don't know. I don't necessarily want to count him out. I don't know that we've seen enough from him yet to really gauge whether this is kind of him on the come up, or if this is just, the lightning striking in the same place twice or whatever. But all throughout, though, the Jaguars, I mean, they've added some pieces too. But I still see them as a dysfunctional organization through and through. And I don't know that changes this year. So I don't want to really put numbers on the rest of the division, because who knows? However, I think that the Colts win the division this year. And I think this is pretty bold, I suppose. I think I see them running away with it almost by a game or two, a couple games or more. And so I think that you've got a healthy Andrew Luck. You've got an improved offensive line. You've got a defense where you've got multiple pieces you can move inside and out. You've got a linebacking core that is worlds above where they've been in the past. You've got a secondary that's completely getting there. They have really gotten their confidence back. I mean, you see the contract that Kenny Moore got. You see them bringing in Rock Ya-Sin. You see Quincy Wilson kind of in the starting packages through OTAs and all that other good stuff. I think their defense is really one that is way on the move. I mean, I think these guys are building, and I think that you're going to see some guys in the next couple years not make this team, because I think that the talent will be that much improved to where some of these guys aren't making the team anymore. Offensively, like I said, the offensive line, Andrew Luck, you've got a backfield now that's pretty diverse. You've got some powerful guys. You've got Jordan Wilkins, who, from what I understand, is becoming, a little more physical, which I think he's going to be good in that role personally. You've got an improved wide receiver core a little bit at a time. It's not necessary for them to go out and shop $100 million wide receiver. I've said that to you guys from the past. I don't see that being logical. I don't think that Chris Ballard's done that, and that's great, because I don't think it's necessary. But all the other pieces right now, plus you've got the mind of Frank Reich. And I just think that the Colts honestly are kicking everybody's ass this year in the division. That is, honest to God, that is my truthful opinion. I don't see it being close at now. This is way early. So, forgive me for, talking so definitively this far ahead of the season, but I really think this is going to be one of the best Colts seasons in a long time. And I don't mean record-wise. They could win 11, 12 games, but I think some of those games are going to be dominant. And I think they're going to beat some teams that people don't think they should beat. And I think this is going to be one of the best Colts rosters / game plan type teams with a head coach, the whole shebang. I think they're all going to be really, really on the same page. And I think this is going to be a real breakout year where people are saying, you know what, the Colts are starting to kick some ass. Watch out for them, because they're for real. So this is kind of where I see it. And I'm definitely picking the Colts to win the AFC South hands down. I would if I was a Texans fan. I mean, I don't care. To me, it's just not close right now. So that's kind of where we're at for that. I'm not going to really go too much further into that. We're going to take a quick break because even though this is my last show, we are going to still get these ads in here and get this podcast, try to get the SB Nation some cash on here. So take a quick break, come right back, and I'm going to go through, kind of my last 8 years in the business, so to speak, and kind of see if you guys, I've never really talked about kind of my story from the jump and kind of how it all came to be. Not that it's probably all that interesting, but shit, this is my last run, folks. So I'm going to do it. We'll be right back after this. For those of you on YouTube, I'm taking a drink of coffee too. Welcome back, folks. All right, we're going to get right into it. This is my last show. I will not be writing anymore for Stampede Blue, SB Nation, anything like that, and for the foreseeable future. I don't know that I will be again, but it was a hard decision. I haven't been active, either with the podcast or with my writing lately, and it's just been a real difficult time over the past 8-9 months. But I'm gonna start at the beginning. Getting into something like this, what was it, 2011, 2012, it just became one of those things. I'm sitting on the couch watching, the Colts, watching the season, and I've always been opinionated. I've always had a mouth on me. So kind of podcasts kind of, eventually, as it became more popular to do, it kind of became an easy fit for me because, I like to talk. Not always everybody has to agree with me. I never cared about that. I just always like to talk and give out my opinions. So I remember sitting on the couch one time and my then wife, and I were talking, and then I started spouting off something about the game or whatever. And, I think she tried to look interested or act interested, and I just don't think she gave a shit, and I'll be honest with you. So obviously you can tell I'm not going to filter myself through this tonight. So if you've got virgin ears, you may not want to listen, but like I said, this is kind of my last hurrah. So I'm not really going to pull any punches. I'm not really going to filter myself much today. So that's kind of how it's going to be. But she just didn't, I just don't think she cared. And I thought at the time I was reading, on, Stampede Blue, and honestly, Josh was still there in his earlier days. And there was another guy there, and I apologize for not remembering his name, but he was interesting to me too. But I read a lot. And, over the years, obviously you do read a lot. So I kept reading and kept reading and kept reading all these articles. And man, goddamn, I can do this. I mean, I've got something to say. I can run my mouth. I can write. But the problem is that I didn't know if I could write. I mean, look, I wasn't the stupid kid in school, but I didn't care about school. I was not a good student, so to speak. I was like maybe a C student, and I got, I got away with whatever I could get away with in terms of not studying until the last night, all that crap. So I don't know if I got B's or C's in English class or what it was, but nothing spectacular. I was never a writer. I never enjoyed writing. Mainly because it was never about sports or football or anything. I never even had an inkling of being in sports journalism in school. I went to school for elementary education at Vincennes for a semester, was going to play basketball there, broke my ankle. I had no reason to be in school anymore. I sure as hell wasn't going there to get an education. I didn't care. So I dropped out of there, came back, did my thing, and nobody would ever tell you that's ever known me in their life that they would expect me to have ever sat down and started writing for, some of the places that I've written. Kind of just the real brutal honesty of it all. Shit, I was a terrible student in that regard. And it just took a lot of people, especially my parents, took them by surprise. Took a lot of people by surprise, including myself even. So anyways, after that conversation, I kind of saw that some people had some kind of low-level blogs, popped up, and I thought, well, I'll just go start my own. So I started this blog on Blogspot that was called The Blue Shoe. Started it and just started writing. and it was terrible. It was so bad. I mean, it was bad. Like, it was recap stuff, nothing. I mean, it was me running my mouth basically and recapping games. It was not good. At any rate, some of you guys from back in the day about this time may remember True Blue fans. Justin Henson reached out to me, asked if I wanted to do that. I thought, shit, that's great. Somebody else wants me to write for him, and I suck. So that was what I did. And I went to True Blue fans and started writing for them, kind of got a little more acclimated, got a little more familiar with kind of the process of writing for a website, which was obviously completely new to me. I didn't have somebody else. I've never had somebody tell me, hey, this is good, but this part is shit, or something like that. And never occurred to me. I didn't care really either. I was, it didn't bother me that people were constructive with me or criticizing my work or whatever. That was fine. Cause I didn't, like I said, this wasn't something I had ever even thought about doing. I simply was doing it because I wanted to run my mouth and not bore the hell out of anybody else around me that I had within earshot. So, went and wrote for True Blue fans for a while, and kind of met, a lot of that Jake Arthur and I have a good past together. We've become friends over the years, and Jake reached out to me, and also the staff there kind of reached out to me and wanted me to write for the Colts there for Pro Football Spot. I did that, and that was kind of the first, I would say, large scale website that I had ever written for, obviously, because there was, a team or writers for each and every team. There were lead writers. There were, just the kind of the whole shebang. It was very new, very cool to me. I thought it was kind of badass, honestly, at the time, because, like I said, very new to the whole situation. Never wrote anything like that. And I felt like I was starting to get considerably better at it. I felt like I was listening to those. Jake was a great teacher. Jake obviously is smart about that stuff. Jake's written a lot at that point, I think, that he had. And so Jake was a great tool for me to get better. And Jake helped me get better. And I did. And so going through Pro Football Spot, I don't remember exactly how long I was there. I feel like a year or two, couple years at least. Started to get better. Really enjoyed doing that. That was fun. Became myself, lead writer. In fact, I started lead writing for the Jaguars. So you can imagine what that was like, writing for the Colts, talking Colts all day, and then trying to learn, the ins and outs of another team. And even though this was an AFC South team, you don't really learn the ins and outs of the roster. You don't really learn all this stuff. So had to get very acclimated with myself. I became a part of the AFC South staff, so to speak. It just kind of blossomed a little bit, I guess you could say, from there. Really enjoyed that. I mean, they had a lot of, ways to get people more acclimated. So I did little videos for people to learn how to write on the site, how to publish, how to do all this other stuff. Got decent enough in writing to where I could edit other writers, newer writers. Tried to help some of those guys come along as well, kind of like Jake and the other guys did for me, and Jacob, the guy who runs the site. So that was fun. That was really cool. Then, I had to have been there for a couple years, and then kind of it gets, I'll be honest with you, like I know where I wrote, but trying to remember the exact time frames and in which order, it's starting to stump me a little bit. But at any rate, I moved on to, let's see, where did I go next? I think it was, the read optional, I believe. Moved on with Ollie Connolly, who's one of the brightest minds that I had talked to at that time. Really smart dude, young as hell. I mean, shit, I'm 40. So at the time, I bet I had to have been 34, 35 maybe. And he was a really bright kid, really smart, really intellectual about the game itself. Knew kind of the system of writing, had been kind of a super nerd in terms of the sports journalism world, basically since his very younger days. So it was really cool learning from him too. Didn't write for an extended period of time with them, but I learned a lot there and really enjoyed it. Got to meet Ollie, at the combine one year, and I've been down there ever since. It was kind of a really cool situation. So did a little bit more of broad work. Wasn't limited to the Colts at that time. Just it was interesting to kind of branch out a little bit and try to write more NFL wide type category stuff, and that was kind of fun. So from the Read Optional, I got a call, or I take that back. I got a DM from John Ledyard, a guy who also wrote at Pro Football Spot, who had been ascending in the draft community, had been ascending, in his own work. He'd been busting his ass as well. And he was the managing editor, for lack of better words, for DraftWire. Went on and wrote for the DraftWire for a little while. I really enjoyed that. Didn't do it for very long. But I really enjoyed it because I started writing about quarterbacks a little bit more, started trying to look on film to kind of find some of these kind of sleeper guys. I believe that I kind of pumped up Jamal Adams maybe a year or two before anybody really knew who he was. At least I felt like it, because I had never really heard about him. I just caught him on tape. And so that was fun for me to kind of see some of those guys. And I was able to, kind of pump up some guys that I thought were really good. So that was fun. I enjoyed writing for him with the DraftWire. That changed when they flipped managing editors there to Luke Easterling. So basically everybody was gone at that time, but I enjoyed it. It was new. I was kind of branching out. I was trying to kind of broaden my horizons, not be so Colts specific, but kind of to kind of bring in and kind of test myself to see if I could actually write. You know what I mean? I know everything I need to know about the Colts. I just watch, I listen, I read, and you get that. Trying to do that NFL wide is a different story. At least it was to me. So I enjoyed doing that. It was fun, but it was difficult. So went on to that with him, and then leaving the DraftWire, I was kind of searching for a way to be different. I don't know how many of you guys, ever listen to the Backyard Banner podcast, but, obviously reception perception, that was such a cool idea. And I wasn't trying to emulate that. However, I was trying to figure something out. I wanted to be something that there wasn't out there. So what I did is I created QB Mecca, a website totally completely dedicated to quarterbacks. Came up with a system to rank them in order to statistically evaluate them and kind of put them all in their own little categories. Every so often after each game, we had like short-term rankings to where you could rank guys, and it was cool. I thought it was cool as hell. Ended up getting a couple of really good writers there, not just good quarterback minds, but good writers. Derek Klassen, excellent football writer, writes for Football Outsiders right now. He wrote there for me, and he did a hell of a job. He's an amazing dude, a smart guy. Really enjoyed bouncing that. So we basically just went head on into quarterbacks. That was all we did. That was it. It was fun. It was fun. And I thought that maybe we had something, and Kevin Hickey, also, that was kind of I believe that was one of basically his start in terms of really writing for a website. And Kevin, you may now know, runs Colts Wire for USA Today. Kevin's a great dude. He was very smart. He did his work. A little bit later, he gets, he starts writing for Giants Wire or whatever the hell it is that USA Today has for the Giants. And then he took over. They gave him Colts Wire to do, and he earned it. And he's been excellent. He pumps out a shitload of content all the time. He does a really good job. He's a smart guy. He's a hell of a good guy. He's great. And he enjoys the conversation. And he's done that as a Giants fan. Now, this is kind of what I was telling you guys about doing all this NFL wide stuff. He is covering the Colts as good as anybody right now. And honestly, he's doing it as a Giants fan. Not easy to do, I don't think. I think I give him props for it all the time. I think he's a hell of a guy. And he's done a good job. Kevin, continue the great work. You're doing a good job, man. He also brought me on to Colts Wire. That's a little bit later on, but that was a small stint. It was something to help. It was kind of something to get my name back into the Colts also, in terms of writing for the Colts. And I appreciated that from him. So it was kind of nice. It was kind of, you know, he wrote for me for a while, and then I wrote for him. We did the QB Mecca thing for a while. We did the Football Mecca podcast that was attached to QB Mecca. This was all me designing this website, and I sucked at it, but I tried my ass off. Man, it was not easy. It was not easy at all. It was fun. It was my first attempt at creating a website, at really kind of driving home what I wanted to do, kind of a vision from my vision, what I had for not only a podcast, but for, you know, website. I thought it was kick ass. I thought it was cool, but my dogs. But on the other hand, it just didn't last long. It wasn't retainable. If that's the right word. Derek was moving on quickly. Kevin was moving on in, you know, his career as well. And what we were trying to do was to get so many articles up, so many things about the quarterbacks, so many quarterback talk. And there just wasn't at the time enough content to really push it. We did end up getting some really good numbers on some stuff, and we drew up a lot of great conversation and content. The podcast did pretty damn well for a podcast out of the blue, not connected to another network. I was pretty impressed with it personally. So that was fun. Thank you, computer, for interrupting me again. So that was cool. I mean, I really did enjoy that. I wasn't very good at it, but I really enjoyed it. So soon after that, I ended up going to Inside the Pylon. And Inside the Pylon was a really cool way for me to try to broaden my horizons, a bunch of real smart freaking dudes. And let me tell you, as a guy who was probably maybe the second or third oldest guy on staff there, you want to feel like a complete dumbass, go visit the Inside the Pylon Slack channel. Make you feel like a jackass real quick. And it did. These guys were really smart. I was not in my element there. I was out of my league, quite honestly. I was not at their level. Wasn't going to pretend to be. I wanted to put out content for them. But man, they were, you know, I did my best with film review. I did my best with trying to assist and trying to be as good as I could with X's and O's. But these guys were, like I said, they were really good at it. And I was just trying to keep up. So I did not, you know, stick around there long. I think maybe 6 months, something like that. Anyways, it was really cool. I met a lot of great guys there. Mark and I would go back and forth with quarterback takes all the time. You guys know Mark. And then kind of got into FanRag, well, which was at the time FanRag Sports. Also kind of reached out to do that and kind of took the reins of that for the Colts. There was only, I think, one other Colts writer, and he wasn't even a Colts fan. He was just a guy who was filling in content. So I felt that was and this was kind of here where, aside from getting a little bit of money from QB Mecca in terms of requests from certain schools or talking to certain places in terms of writing up articles, people who wanted articles written on a certain quarterback in the NFL would kind of send some money. But there was in the podcast very little, but you know, it earned a little bit. So aside from that, FanRag was kind of my real, and you know, I think I got FanRag, and I don't remember. I got some of this out of order, guys, but FanRag was kind of my first taste at making a little bit of money per article. I really appreciated that from them, because it was fun, you know, thinking I'm actually making a bit of, what was it, $25 an article, something like that. And I was writing, you know, 2-4 articles every week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. I don't really remember, but, you know, getting a neat little paycheck, you know, for writing, doing something I love to do, is talk about the Colts, was badass. I mean, it was cool, you know. A lot of these people, you know, may come out of college or may have done some journalism work in high school, to where they come out and they're versed enough to where they can make some money right out of the gate in this world. But I wasn't able to do that, and I didn't know anybody personally who did or who could. Jake didn't. You know, a lot of the guys that I came up with did not make anything out of it. Initially, it was purely for the love of the game and to be a part of the writing community and to draw conversation on Twitter about the Colts and to kind of build a following, not just for yourself, but for the websites, so on and so forth. I loved doing it, man. I put a shitload of time and effort into this, man, and I really went in, and it took a lot of my time up, a lot of it. I enjoyed being, the research of, or what the hell, research. I enjoyed researching different things. I wanted to talk about what nobody else was really talking about, and if they were talking about it, I wanted to hit it from another angle. And that was fun for me. I had a little bit of creative process between me and my editor, and it was that I could go through and be like, hey, look, this is what I want to talk about. Can I hit this? And they're like, well, yes, but kind of, hit it from this angle too, or do that on your next article or something like that. So that was cool. I was getting paid not only to do what they asked me to do, but do what I wanted to do. So it was great. That was fun. I think I did that for a little over a year when it moved in terms of whatever the name turned into. It no longer was Fan Rag at that point, or just whatever. But between that, the Colts Wire, all that stuff, and when I was at Fan Rag, I started Locked On Colts, the podcast, and that was my first time doing an actual Colts podcast. So really enjoyed that. That kind of brought some people in as well. We were doing it 4 or 5 times a week. I'm telling you, that wore my ass out, folks. Had 4 kids this whole time, was married, really busted my ass to be one of the people that you guys, or anybody for that matter, could go to if they wanted to talk real Colt shit. And that to me was fun. I mean, I took some pride in it. You know what I mean? It wasn't a status thing by any means. I took pride in it because I didn't want somebody saying something to me and me just not knowing what the hell I was talking about. That was not going to happen. So I did my research. I did put the time into it. It took a lot of time away from my family. It took a time away from a bunch of stuff. I tried to do the majority of my stuff at night when the kids would go to bed or my wife was at work or whatever the case was. But man, there are sometimes, you try to be that guy who puts all that effort into getting the story out first, or getting something that pops up. You want to be the guy who makes the most sense, or all that shit. I mean, that's just part of it. And that was what taxed me. That was what really kind of wore me out and kind of, really took a toll on me, I guess, through the years as I did that, starting out in, like I said, 2011, 2012, going through all this stuff, finally getting paid, finally getting some money for it, but not doing any less work, or, in fact, doing more work. And it just became something that I still love to do. I wanted to do it. And then came to Stampede Blue, Brett, or I take that back. Josh Wilson was running the site at the time. He asked me if I wanted to come on board after FanRag went upside down. And I went immediately. I thought, I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want to do. Wasn't making any money for that, but it wasn't about that. It was about a much bigger site, a much bigger platform, being able to really feel like I was at home with Stampede Blue. Great people, great fans, big community to where, there was a lot of, really stupid comments and stuff at the same time at the end of articles or just whatever it was, but a lot of great conversation too, and knowledgeable fans. That was so fun. That was a blast for me. I loved it right away. You kind of get the trial by fire with the SB Nation or something bigger, where there's multiple comments, hundreds of comments on an article, and that's fun. That was really cool for me. Josh ended up leaving. Brett took over. And just a little bit of truth here. And I don't even, I don't, honest to God, don't even know if Brett knows this, but Brett, when Josh left, I also put in for the managing editor spot at Stampede Blue, and Brett got it. And I'm glad he did. I mean, I can honestly say that I'm glad that he did, because I feel like he has done and will do and has done a much better job than I would have. I don't know that I could balance all of that and what I was going through. I did that because I wanted to be in charge. I wanted to have and it wasn't a power thing. It was, I wanted to be in charge because I wanted to make the site my own, kind of, you know what I mean? But continue to build out and get great writers and other, content providers in here. And Brett did that and has done a kick-ass job doing it. He's given me every opportunity I wanted. He gave me the podcast. And then kind of gave me some sort of a leadership role basically right away. Like, look, man, I want you to be, part of this. I want you to be not part of it. I want you to be a big part of it and kind of be my right hand to an extent. And that was awesome for me. I appreciated that. And I was never jealous of the fact that he got the job and I didn't. Like I said, I'm glad as hell that he did, because it probably would not be what it is today if I had gotten it. And I can say that truthfully. As much as I can sit here and run my mouth about the Colts, as much as I can write or could at the time write about the Colts, he's done a very good job in the managing portion of that. And I don't know that I was cut out for that, to be quite honest with you. I would have probably worked my ass off for it, but I don't know if I'd have gotten the same results Brett has. Brett's brought in a bunch of great people. I ended up getting Jake Arthur over to Stampede Blue because he deserved that, man. Jake busted his ass at Pro Football Spot for so long, and he never kind of really got noticed and didn't get that real. I mean, he did within the community on Twitter, so on and so forth. But I really wanted Jake to come over because Jake is a great dude and a brilliant writer and a smart guy and a thorough guy. And Jake has gone on to write for Colts.com now. And I'm so happy for that dude. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. He's one of my best friends. And I'm so happy for him in that regard because he deserves that shit too. And when you look at all the guys that you've been a part of this path with and who's succeeded, they deserve it. All those guys deserve it. They deserve it because they worked their butt off and they've done what they had to do. And this is not for the faint of heart, guys. Okay, like I told you, I'm 40 years old. I've got 4 kids, single father. Not easy. I can't do it anymore. That's what this has all come down to. I have everything I wanted when I started this. When I started writing for the Colts, I was making real money writing for Stampede Blue. This microphone here, my mixer, my computer, everything that I've used to do this podcast, I was earning real money for it. We got sponsors. We did everything. I had everything that I wanted when I first started out in this, and I simply don't have the chops for it anymore. I can't go on, and I just don't have enough time in the day. I've lost kind of the drive to come down here and put 2, 3, 4 podcasts up a week, to sit, at the table and write an article or 2 a day. I can't do that shit anymore. I just can't. But man, I'm telling you, there's some great guys. Chris Blystone, Brett. I mean, man, I hate this because I don't want to forget anybody. Honest to God, the entire Stampede Blue team has been freaking phenomenal, and they are going to be good. There's some younger guys in there now who are going to do great work, and they're busting their ass for you guys. So give them the credit that they deserve because they're busting their ass for it too. And this, I don't know what their situations are. I don't know if most of them are married, girlfriends, kids. I don't know any of that for the most part. We don't get a whole lot in depth. I mean, you get some personal connections with a couple guys or a few, but not all of them. I don't ask these guys, everything about their life. They don't ask me about mine. But I'm just telling you guys about this because this is kind of man, as much as this seems just kind of like I'm just not writing anymore. This is kind of emotional almost because it has been a part of my life for 8 years. People in my community, I live an hour plus north of Indianapolis. People in my community are walking up to me, asking me what I think about the Colts, wondering why, this or that, or, the local radio station, when I do high school games there, they want me to do a halftime segment with them and talk Colts. Like I said, everything I wanted when I first started out, I've got it. I just can't do it. Not anymore. It's been too long. My kids need me. My oldest was 9 years old when I started this. She's almost 17 now. I've got a 6 and a 7-year-old. I've got a 13-year-old son too. And they need me more than I need this. And as much as I love and have loved talking Colts with you guys for so long, having all the great guests on, you know, I mean, and you know, I don't want to just kind of point one more person out or forget anybody, but like Zach Hicks, he's one of those guys who's kind of a rising star in my opinion. And there are a few guys like that. Chris Blystone's an absolute effing machine, guys. Brett has, you know, Brett's a lawyer. I don't know if you guys know that. I don't know if he's going to be pissed at me for telling you guys that. Brett's a freaking lawyer, and he's doing this shit. I mean, you guys, it's so cool to see so many people really bust their ass. And one of the things Jake Arthur used to tell me is like, man, I have no idea how the hell you do this. You put out all this work, and you've got this, you've got kids, you've got a wife, you've got all this stuff going on. And it's just, and that was the thing. It was like, I don't know, man, I love doing it. It was a passion. It started as a hobby, became a passion. And now it's become, quite honestly, what's the word, man? It's just become one of those things that you just can't do anymore. You know, I just can't. It's become a hindrance to my everyday life. That sucks saying that, but it's the truth. I love the work that these guys put out. It was awesome talking. You know, I mentioned George Bremer, you know, Stephen Holder, Kevin Bowen, Zach, just all the guys that are down there at camp. They've been awesome. When you go down and you talk to them, they've been great guys. They're all great guys. Kravitz, all of them. The Chapel. I mean, the list goes on. Honest to God, the list is inevitable. I can't remember anybody down there who's been an asshole. Quite honestly, these guys were great. They did their work. They were more than helpful in terms of, you know, getting the conversation. It's nice when you're sitting there, you know, they're not looking at you like these guys write for blah, 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 or do this, or we don't know who they are. They included us in everything. They're very cool. I thank Matt Connie for allowing us to come down there. We've had a lot of great conversations with the writers, the players alike, the coaching staff. They treated us like one of the group, you know, and I appreciated that. It was very fun to be able to do this for so long. I can't tell you guys how proud I am of myself. And this isn't something, I'm not much of a self-promoter, horn-tooting asshole. I'm not, you know, I'm not. But for a guy who didn't, man, I can't even remember, before 2011, 2012, I graduated high school in 97. So 15 years had gone by. I hadn't written a damn thing. Maybe a love letter, you know, several birthday cards. That was about the extent of my writing before I started writing to write football and write Colts and to write NFL and to talk NFL. So I'm proud of myself. I really am, to what I accomplished. And I couldn't have done it without such a cool group of people that I've met in the process. It is always about, as a writer, helping other people if you can. But one of the things, guys, if you ever get into this, and if you ever want to be in sports journalism, you ever want to be a writer or podcast host, you can't do it alone. You can't. So don't be a dick. You can't do it alone. You need other people to help you. You need other people to help you kind of understand certain things. Not every process is super easy. And that's just life in general. You know, I'm a mailman. I've been a mailman for almost 15 years now. Like I said, I've got 4 kids, and now I'm going to be a fan, just a fan, and I'm going to move on. And, you know, I would never say I would never come back, but at this point in time, I don't have it in me, and I don't have the free time for it. Like I said, my oldest is, you know, just 2 years away from graduating high school. My oldest son is going to be right behind her. My youngest daughter and my youngest son, those two are, you know, taking up a lot of my time, and I love every minute of it. And I'm not going to pass it up. I'm not going to let it pass me by. So, I'll probably still be writing high school sports. That's kind of fun for me on Fridays to be able to get with the high school kids and the area and do that. I love doing that too. And that's one day a week. That's one article a week. That's fun for me. Doing this, has become, like I said, hindrance. And as much as I love Colts football and I love talking about it and I love to write articles about it if I had the time, I don't love doing it anymore. And that's not fair to you guys or anybody else, or it's not fair to me. It's not fair to my family to take up that time with something that has kind of become, something like a monkey on my back, so to speak. So that's about it, folks. Thank you guys for listening to all of my podcasts. Thank you guys for talking, football, Colts, whatever, through Twitter, through just anything and everything. You guys have been excellent. You've been a lot of fun to converse with. And, thank you for reading my stuff. Thank you for any comment you've ever made where, you said, nice article. It's something so simple as that. When you put yourself out there as a writer and you've never done it and you didn't know how to do it not too long ago, man, that feels good. That made me feel good. I know it makes a lot of guys feel good. So if you think somebody did a good job, man, just tell them. Nice article. Nice. This podcast was really fun, or just whatever, it doesn't matter. Something simple. You don't have to go in depth. You don't have to kiss their ass. Just be nice about it and be decent. If you thought it was good, tell them. They'll appreciate it a lot, because they're putting a lot of work into this. They're putting a lot of time. It's taking away from other things they could be doing. This is something that people don't understand. I got in an argument with a guy on Twitter one time because I don't think he understood. This is something you do on the side. This isn't my job. This was something I fell in love with doing, and it took up a crap load of my time, and it became, more than just a hobby. It became something I really looked forward to doing every day. And you've got to give these guys credit, because, man, they're taking away from their time, their job. I mean, you go work your job, come home, sit down for an hour and a half, write an article, and see how much time you got for dinner and showers and outside time with your kids, or to go to the store, or anything like that. Go try that one time. Put another 2 hours of your day just sitting on the couch doing nothing, what seems to be nothing to everybody around you, and tell me how much time you've got left in your day. Not a lot. This has been one of the coolest experiences of my life. I attained something that I never thought I could do. Kind of similar to playing drums. I'm not very good at drums either, but I learned, by myself. I didn't have anybody teach me. So that was another kind of thing at my age that you just find, you hope that you can learn new shit as you get older. And that was one of them as well. So, like I said, thank you guys all for the kind words, whether you're a fan, a friend, or somebody in the writing community, somebody covering the Colt, any of that. Thank you. I appreciate you all reaching out. I appreciate all the messages, the kind words, the podcasts, reading the articles throughout the years. Thank you for following me on Twitter, for Christ's sake. I mean, just any of that, thank you, because it's been a real blast for me. Unfortunately, with life-changing events, like I said, over the past 8 months, there's not enough time in the day for me to think about Colts right now, especially in the off season. It's just not there. So, for now, and probably for good, at least from the podcast area, from, in terms of writing on Stampede Blue, this is me kind of saying goodbye. So thank you guys all for everything you've done for me. Continue to support Stampede Blue. Continue to support your favorite writers in any way that you can. Let them know. You just don't know how much the littlest thing that you say can boost their confidence. You may turn an average writer into a kick-ass writer, because they'll be wanting to do more, and they'll want to give you more content, and they'll want to improve themselves and do more research and actually be a pro about it. That's something that you see certain people turn into, and that's really cool. So tell your writers, tell your podcasters how much you like them, especially your local guys, and just continue to really support Stampede Blue. These guys are doing excellent work. The draft guide is something, is Brett's baby. I think that you can honestly say that, you know, I'm not shitting you guys when I say that you should all give Brett a round of applause for getting that many people together to put that much effort into putting a draft guide together that's Colts centric. That nobody does that shit. Nobody does that now. Just Stampede Blue. And that was awesome because he's a motivator and he's good to his writers. And he's good to his staff. He's a good dude. All the guys at Stampede Blue, all the ladies at Stampede Blue, excellent. And I mean, I'm going to forget some people, and I'm not trying to do that. I'm just kind of trying to show you guys it's diverse, man. You've got a really cool group, Stampede Blue. So support them. You know, have the right conversation in the comments. Don't be a dick and try to drum something up, but be good, man. Thank you guys again for everything. Kind of hard to cut this off, but I feel like I've got a lot more to say now that I'm running out of time. But thank you guys for everything. I appreciate you. Love you all. And I'll talk to you guys later.